Hey, good morning. Just want to remind you to check out our new merch at coffeepeoplearesexy.com. Thanks for checking in. The first thing that we always do, and the first thing I always ask is I say, welcome to Coffee People, welcome to Coffee People.
Yeah,
And,
thanks, Ryan. It's awesome.
and if you wouldn't mind, tell everyone who's someday going to be listening to this, your name and what your role is and at what company.
Yeah, so great to meet you. I'm Kevin Hartley, and I'm the founder and CEO of Cambio Roasters. Um, and we'll talk a lot about it, I'm sure. But I have a long, multi-decades long background with Keurig Green Mountain from a tiny little company until a huge exit we had in 2016.
Yeah, I think everyone's pretty familiar with the Green Mountain pods now. I think they have my Costco in the few times I've been allowed into a Costco. Yeah, just like that. Uh, I'm not actually on our Costco account, just full disclosure, because my wife feels that would be dangerous. So
I'm
not
sure it
one
would
to
be.
go. So you had a background. You're based out of South Carolina, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to. We're in different time zones here. When this was scheduled, by the way, I was on an East Coast time zone, so I was expecting this to be at 10:30, and now it's
Oh,
much earlier for me today.
sorry about that.
But I have a good cup of coffee, so I'm okay
Oh, good.
either way. How did you get? Let's kind of back up a little bit. How did you get started at Green Mountain in the first place? I mean, even before that, do you have a coffee memory or experience that kind of got you started on this is something I do in the morning or every day?
Yeah, so I probably haven't. I wonder if this is true, Ryan. I don't think I've missed morning coffees, plural for me, not singular, since I had my first job in construction when I was 15.
Oh,
So maybe I was in the hospital once and didn't, or something. But so I've been a coffee lover ever since. I My background is it's about equally distributed between Fortune 500 C-suite and entrepreneur. And on the entrepreneurial side, and the through line of my career is commercializing national scale innovations, basically. So
hmm
launching new products or services that totally will make a customer's socks go up and down in whatever company or industry. And my journey to Green Mountain Coffee started in the mid 2000s when the unbelievably talented entrepreneur Bob Stiller and his right hand man Steve Sable engaged me to do some future looking work with Green Mountain Coffee, which was a public company at the time. Bob started it after he retired when he was 28 years old. He sold Easy Wider rolling papers and then retired from Westchester County to Vermont. And I'm from Vermont, so theoretically you could put tobacco in Easy Widers, but sure. So, um, uh, and then he retired to a ski area in Vermont called Sugarbush and started palling around with the people. There was a little coffee shop called Green Mountain Coffee, and he had the idea of putting a roaster in the coffee shop, which was not common at the time.
hmm
And off it went. And then Green Mountain Coffee bought Keurig, which was a struggling little coffee uh, machine maker in '05 and '06, and then it exploded onto the North American scene. Guess how many uh, little K cups the U.S. will drink this year?
In a year, oh God, I don't know, 10 billion.
That's a good guess. 20 billion.
Yeah, I would. I got it. I mean,
Most
it's.
people way underestimate that, but so 20 billion.
I
And
mean, underestimating by 10 billion is still quite a bit.
well, you're a factor of two, but you're in the
Yeah.
billions at least.
Yeah. Well, I did the math. My dad has two or three a day, multiplied by everyone I know, multiplied by everyone, that
Yeah.
drinks. It just sort of pops up. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I was chief innovation and chief strategy officer from that time period until the we were purchased by a big private equity company in 2016, and it was pinch me fun. You wouldn't have believed it. We had to install a K cup manufacturing line that's the size of a small ranch house somewhere in North America every 10 business days for more than 4 years to keep up with demand.
Wow.
Because after the acquisition, there was a handful of us that even knew what a K cup was or that had a brewer that would do it. And then as it exploded, and Starbucks and Dunkin's and Green Mountains and Illy and Pete and Lavazza, and as it became of about half of all U.S. households that make a cup of coffee in the morning now currently make it with a Keurig, with a K cup. Then that just was just an amazing rocket ride of fun.
Sure. So, and I'm just curious. So, there's a K cup or something similar in just about every hotel room that I stay in. And over the past
Hmm.
year, that's been like 50 or 60 of them. So, quite a few. So, it's consistent. I see them or Airbnbs.
Hmm.
We've lived in a rental for the last 8 months that was furnished, and it came fully stocked with hundreds of different K cups, of
Hmm.
every different flavor I could imagine. Vermont, known for their environmentalism, beautiful outdoors and nature. Was that something that was talked about way back at the beginning of this? I'm just curious, and not trying to be in an accusatory way, because we all know K cups are made of plastic for the most part.
Correct.
But was that something that even then, because Vermont's always been kind of ahead of the curve as far as like that kind of stuff goes?
It sure has. Yeah, in fact, since I was a young lad, call it boy, we've been recycling. I didn't even know that
Sure.
people didn't. You know, there's no billboards in Vermont, even kind of place, right? Ben and Jerry's, seventh generation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
Super cool. Um, but yeah, at the time, and we will get to Cambio in a minute, but
Sure.
our dream was to reimagine the iconic K cup for the next 25 years, which
Hmm.
meant that we had to solve the plastic K cup problem, which we'll talk about. But back to your question, yes, that was a much talked about subject. The reason K cups are all plastic, well, the reason they look like a K cup is because that's what the Ken salad dressing came in early on
Hmm.
in the Boston entrepreneurs formation dinners. And so they thought that might work, that we could solve the office coffee pot conundrum with this. So they ordered 1,000 of them and started working on it. But that's why it has this shape, ironically.
That's
And
funny.
then the reason it's ubiquitous is because it's inexpensive. I mean, that's the reason. And
Hmm.
Keurig was growing so fast. There were certainly um, areas of the business that felt pained about that was the form factor for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but as you're in the real world, as you're scaling that fast, you have to lock a technology down and then scale it. But that created the opportunity we have today to reimagine it for today's consumer in today's world.
Sure. Um, so let's just jump right in then to Cambio.
Yeah.
Cambio Roasters. What is it? Obviously its origin story starts with the K cup, which is why we've been talking about it a little bit. Uh, why? I'm assuming you did pretty okay on that rocket ship.
Hmm.
Why keep going? Why not just head down to South Carolina, start golfing, and forget about it all? Why start a new company?
Fair question. Not that I don't still do some of that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But in all seriousness, we say one team, one dream, and there were a group of us who were in senior C-suite roles at Keurig who shared this passion to reimagine the iconic K cup for the next 25 years and launch from scratch what we hope is the most impactful, not only most impactful K cup brand in the US, but one of the most impactful CPG brands. And all the senior team are investors, and we share that same passion. So it's sort of legacy project. Like, can we really
Hmm.
solve the two intractable problems of plastic, which I articulate? But it's it's a heavy lift to launch a successful national consumer brand from scratch. My
Sure.
And it's expensive and it's bumpy. You know how my kids are. I have adult children, but they say, "Hey, Dad, you know how when you see a motorhome driving down the highway, there's a bumper sticker on it that says, "We're spending our children's inheritance."
Hmm.
They say, "You should put that on the Cambio packaging." And
Yeah, that's
if it
fair.
wasn't so true, it would be funny.
Yeah.
Um,
My dad could put that on the back of a boat or whatever boat he's driving this year.
Perfect.
It's never new, but it's never old either. It's always
Perfect.
something
Perfect.
rotating in. Oh, hello. Uh, didn't see you there. Drinking a cup of coffee while working on the show, which is pretty much what I do when I'm working on the show is drink coffee. Lately, it's been Prismatic Coffee from Salem, Oregon. They're a local roaster. When you open up this pop top, which I'm going to do right now, pull back that tab. Unbelievable. It's like when you're a kid and you smell bubble gum. It's just incredible. Tastes pretty good too. Check out Prismatic Coffee. We'll put the link up there on the thing. And get back to the show. Thanks for watching Coffee People. Cheers. So you said something there that caught me, which was that your current C-suite or your current founders are investors, which
Mhm.
means that you've got skin in the game. You're not using someone else's money. You have to believe in this.
Mhm.
What made you feel like, or what was the spark that said this is something I believe in? Not just like I want this to be a legacy, but I actually think people want this product. People obviously wanted the K cup, so there's a proof of concept in the convenience of that.
Yeah, and here's the
Why
new
the
one,
extra thing? Yeah,
um,
and
yeah,
just
so
that's just for anyone that is watching, and we'll post photos as well on our newsletter. That is a recyclable kind of like
aluminum K-cup,
okay, right,
the only
same, yeah,
patent protected, but the only ones in the world that you can use in your Keurig. So let me unpack the question. Excellent question. Unpack it really quickly. There is a market segment of Keurig consumers who um, we call her Hope. She's our avatar, and she's a really interesting person. She's actively looking for brands and purchases that align with her values. And those values tend to be environmental,
hmm,
organic, fair trade kind of stuff in our category. But she's also very pragmatic. It's interesting, Ryan. No raging environmentalist has a Keurig. We're pretty mainstream people. No Keurig customer is chaining herself to a nuclear power plant kind of thing. That's just not. The data driven insight, and Hope is about almost a quarter of existing Keurig consumers. And her pragmatic side is that she gets that all her purchases aren't perfect, and she's okay with that. However, this is the data driven aha, which is so exciting. Whenever she can move a purchase from the yucky column to this better column, she gets a dopamine hit and she gets excited.
sure,
So we've precision crafted Cambio to basically be her dream coffee pod brand for a Keurig. What's interesting, all of our national retailers also talk about this consumer. Kroger calls her Henry, high earner, not rich yet. Target calls her the emerging modern consumer. Walmart calls her the purpose driven consumer. So this will be no surprise to you, but it's a big category of shopping behavior.
hmm,
What's interesting about the K cup aisle is that though it has 60 amazing brands, and they're amazing coffee brands, and I'm so proud of a bunch of them. Our retailers have said, you know what, there isn't a brand targeted at that particular consumer that's looking for a pure purpose driven play, that including caring about the planet. And the retailers say, and we have a single use plastics conundrum that we need some help with. So that's unpack level number one. Unpack level number two, we said the reason K cups are plastic is because they're inexpensive, but they have two intractable problems. And I'm sure you're aware that many brands or businesses are started to solve an intractable problem or two. Not all of us succeed for sure. In our world, in consumer packaged goods, 95% of startups never make it to their Series A.
hmm,
So the the road is littered with RIPs for sure.
Sure.
But plastic has two killer problems. The first is the coffee doesn't really love it. Its oxygen transfer rate is too high, so the coffee loses its magnificence usually well before it's ever brewed. Number one. Number two, and this is the sad part, all of us who throw our plastics in curbside recycling in the US, truthfully, very little of that actually makes it into another product. The honest answer is about 3% do.
Hmm.
The rest end up just in landfills and some in oceans, et cetera. So we started a number of years ago on a multi-million dollar, ergo my kids problem, multi-million dollar, multi-year innovation product, and have launched on the national scene Cambio, which is of course Spanish for change, the only aluminum K-cup it works in your Keurig. And I'm going to talk about the coffees in a second too, which you'll love. What's fascinating about the aluminum pod, and you might know Nespresso pods are aluminum, so
Hmm.
it is the gold standard sort of for coffee pods around the world, but we're just bringing it into the Keurig platform.
Sure.
And you know how you stand on the shoulders of those who go before you kind of thing?
Of course.
But aluminum is called the magic metal for a couple of reasons. The first is, um, unlike plastics, when we throw aluminum in the US in the curbside bin, almost 100% of the time it turns into another product. The molecule is eerily stable, and it's much cheaper to do it the 100th time than it is the first time mining bauxite and melting it.
Hmm.
So it turns into a Diet Coke can or a Bud can or, Bud Light can or Airstream trailer or whatever it turns into.
That's actually an important. I'm going to sorry to interrupt, but just the aluminum that you're using in that K cup or in that Cambio cup. Do you call it a C cup? What do you call it? K-
Um, Coffee pod, coffee
Coffee
pod.
pod. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, I didn't want to keep calling it K cup throughout our chat. That's not what it
Yes,
is.
correct.
Um, is that uh, is that virgin aluminum or is it recycled aluminum or a combination of the
Right
two?
now, it's a combination,
Okay.
which is exciting to begin with, and then it turns into another product almost all the time. And then uh, we love, as a group, we love innovation, so we're going to continue to push the recycled content, which is a big, huge, fun project. But the other thing that's sexy about aluminum, and the reason it's called the magic metal, is the oxygen transfer rate, Ryan, is literally zero.
Hmm.
So the coffee keeps the magic of the roast master as long as until it's brewed. Because it's funny, I was in a conversation with a very large US based coffee brand, and we were saying, the CEO saying, isn't it interesting? We source the finest or Arabica beans from around the world, have amazing roast masters, amazing Q graders, and then we put it in this sort of, one of the form factors is we put it in this suboptimal plastic K cup.
Sure.
And it's just funny. It's just one of those things that needed to be fixed. So Cambio, the Cambio's traction with consumers and retailers is because of the magic of aluminum, but it's funny. We had a number of consumers recently say, "So you guys, Kev," and we don't know these people. These are feedback, on Amazon or
Hmm.
from the site or whatever. Millions of consumers, but one common thread is we came for the planet, but we stayed for the taste.
Okay.
So, Lynn, and I want to describe to you
Yeah.
how
Please.
our coffee love kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before you do, I wanted to just ask one clarifying
Please.
question as early in the show. One is, or not one is, but the question is that aluminum Cambio cup
Hmm.
coffee pod. Can you drop it into a traditional Keurig? Does it require a proprietary machine for
Only
anyone
works
watching?
in it works in 44.5 million Keurigs.
Sure.
All of
So easy. So the problem isn't like finding a new or buying a new machine. All you're doing is looking at the shelf, and the problem for you is getting yours on the shelf next to the other one, and then
correct.
letting a consumer make a choice.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're obsessed on the hopes of the world that have a Keurig,
Yeah.
and she's saying, "Boy, do I love my Keurig, but boy, I don't feel that great about the waste." And boy, as they've cost reduced year on year on year, just because big companies have to, I'd sure love the coffee to be more special. So
Yeah.
it's when we're laser focused on that. In fact, we get a lot of, can't you be in other form factors of coffee? And can't you do a Cambio, coffee bar, granola bar? And can't you do a Cambio this and a Cambio that? No, focus is so correlated with success that we have a lot of row to hoe, as you will.
Sure. So then you were going to jump into a little bit more about the coffee itself, I believe.
Yeah. So this amazing woman, Ryan, and for your listeners, Lindsay Bolger, who ran all of
Hmm.
Keurig Green Mountain's global multi-billion-dollar coffee activities, personally curates all of Cambio coffees. We're the only 100% organic line that a retailer can pick from, which is really exciting. And all of the coffees, wherever they're sourced from around the world, I'm sure you know this, but for your listeners, coffees grown between the Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of Cancer around the equator, all around the world, usually at altitude of 3,500 feet or above. Typically, there are exceptions. And as you raise in altitude, the coffee cherry grows under less atmospheric pressure. So the molecular changes are actually different as you go because of atmospheric pressure as you reduce in altitude. And coffee farming families, as a rule, are not big coffee farms like a US citizen would think of a farm. It's a very modest, lovely, open air dwelling on this, typically on, sort of on the side of a mountain. Um, but all of Lindsay's and Cambio's coffees are all small farm sourced, all small batch roasted. And then we range them from a big bomber Pacific Northwest French roast, pulled from the roaster right after the second crack, just before it bursts into flames, all the way to a lovely New England breakfast blend. Because when an American says, "Get me a cup of coffee," we mean very different things from each other. Roast level, and then sweetener and whitener, and it's thousands of combos. So then we polish it off with Lindsay, because coffee farming families struggle with food insecurity more than 6 months a year. Cambio doesn't donate 1 or 0% of profits. We donate 20% of profits to 10,000 struggling coffee farming families.
Oh, that's interesting. Uh,
So we're obsessed with the magic of the coffee. I'm pretty sure we put the most expensive coffees of anyone in a K cup for a Keurig.
so I see a future problem if you haven't already run into it. And
Yeah.
just playing a little devil's advocate here is as Cambio grows, the way K Cup grew, at some point you have to source a lot more coffee and people will expect a similar level of consistency probably as they do from K Cup.
Hmm.
How do you do that while also still supporting small farms or not taking more control like some of those, some of the negative press around companies like a Starbucks or a Dunkin' or
Right.
whatever is that they're using beans from these mass farms that are just not, they're not talking about the magic of coffee. I mean, they're talking about it, but they're not actively doing it necessarily the way that you are talking about with Cambio. So if you keep growing, how do you approach that problem? Or I mean, how do you see that on your horizon? Or is it a question of just like getting into the market with the K cup originally, and now with the coffee pod, you got to get in and figure it out as you go?
Yeah. So I think the answer would be sort of a little of both. So we wanted to make sure to enter the market for our shoppers and consumers with the most amazing coffees we could deliver.
Hmm.
Um, and that a Q grader, which is, as you know, like a sommelier in wine, they actually have the palate to be able to differentiate. It's not just I have a much more normal palate, so we shouldn't have me do it. I just love the product. But I appreciate a lovely coffee just like I appreciate a lovely wine for sure. Maybe that's the breakfast of champions. I'm not sure, but uh, with our supply chain planning, our intent uh, is to be as fast as possible from 0 to 100 million K cups a year. And therefore, today, 54 million K cups a day end up in landfills every day. So you like fill up Giant Stadium every 3 or 4 days or something. It's crazy. So, in our supply chain planning with Lindsay and the supply chain, our 100 million K cup 36 months from now volume does not put a dent, does not stress the ability for us to keep sourcing these small farm source, small co-op purchased lovely coffees. We're just
Mhm.
still such an, I don't mean this negatively, but we're such a small part of such a, even at that success of this
Yeah.
huge, monstrous system. Now, that's different. Starbucks this year at K Cups, I believe, will do 2.4 billion, just K Cups.
Mhm.
So, I mean, then then you're stretching supply chains for, for darn sure. And then
Ye
the other thing I would add, because I'm kind of, uh, another part we felt very seriously about the brand is we price Cambio on par with a traditional
Mhm.
K cup, Dunkin's or Green Mountains or Starbucks or Pete's. So, and then we put expensive coffees in there so you can, and the aluminum cup costs a lot more than a plastic one. So you can tell that I'm willing to, because it's just us who has to decide, or I get to adjudicate it, be able to absorb that in margin because um, we care about the dream. And if you have a super expensive K cup, I mean, some people are going to be interested because of the coffee and what it stands for, but it's sort of in America, it kind of falls off the table pretty quickly if you're asking your shopper to sacrifice price in a big way or taste in a big way. So we tried to put this intoxicating package together, but I'm certainly like earning less per K cup than a big brand for sure.
You mentioned, or we joked a bit about spending your kid's inheritance.
Yes. Unfortunately, it's true, but yes.
Yep. Which I think, hey, I tell my parents all the time: spend what you got. We'll figure it out in the long run. We're still, doing
Yes.
okay. Um, I mean, for God's sakes, I'm a podcaster for a living. I mean, it's amazing what you can do in the world right now.
It's amazing.
So that being said, was there a point at the beginning of this process after you leave Keurig and Green Mountain, and you decide to start Cambio, where you kind of got into it and you thought, man, did you ever question it? Did you ever say, I don't know if this is worth the trouble? I've got a pretty good life here.
Yeah, great question. And in the spirit of transparency, yes, is the short answer. And then to talk about that a little more, put color around it.
Hmm.
There's a wonderful book called The Messy Middle, and that's the difference from the sort of PowerPoint presentation or the idea and actually a big commercialized something. And the messy middle is real and it's yucky and it's hard and it's scary. And it anyone with a project, starting a restaurant even, there's a messy middle, right? I mean, the executing it is way harder than the idea. People in the innovation space like to oftentimes say, oh, so yeah, the idea, that's about 5% of the effort. Um, and so, yes, so as Ann and I, who's my life partner and co-founder, and our team, as we plowed through this, there were, to be honest, there were more than a handful of nights where in my living room right over there, I was sitting there at 3 a.m. going, how am I going to figure out this particular problem? And are we going to make it through here? And are we going to be able to capitalize this next period of growth kind of things? The I think maybe this is not giving myself a compliment for sure, but I think those of us, and there would be millions of people, not just me, but those people who launch things and stick with it are have a little, their wiring's a little weird, in
Sure.
your ability to keep taking gut punches and keep going.
Hmm.
It's just a funny makeup. So though it was very difficult, the question never popped up. Should we stop doing it?
Hmm.
Um, a valid question was, though, knowing what I know now, would I have done it?
Yeah,
And
sure.
my friend Mike Cunningham likes to say, he's got a picture that says, we didn't do it because it was easy. We started it because we thought it would be easy.
Yeah, sure. Persistence is a lot. I mean, like I mentioned, this show's had several hundred episodes. This show only continues to exist because I don't stop doing it. I mean, we have people that support it now, and that's amazing.
Hmm.
But it certainly didn't seem like it was going to be the right decision for various parts of the show or various parts of its growth or its origin. But there was something about it that made me think it was important. And even on the days when nothing seems to be going right, you wake up the next day and you just keep pushing forward. And in the media space, at least, everything is so fast now.
Oh,
And I think in innovation, it's a different pace, but it's still fast. I worked in startups
right.
quite a bit in innovative startups, and people are so willing to cut things loose and move forward. So this idea that you could be persistent or that you could continue, and maybe this is a little ranty or a little bit of the moment, but I worry a lot about our future generations in critical thinking and working through problems. And it sounds like that's something that you were sitting at that coffee table doing, when you could have easily just said, "Oh, well, didn't work out. Let's move on to the next thing." Um, you mentioned your partner, who is a co-founder. What's it like working with family? I mean, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Would you recommend it?
So I think typical advice is don't do it.
Sure.
Um, Anne and I do fantastic together. It's been a wonderful, wonderful part of the journey and different skill sets. Um, you could hear commonly when we're working together in the on the dining room table when she hears me on the call saying something that we're going to do, and she goes, "We're not doing that," kind of thing. So she's the voice of reason in the room, but equally as passionate about the outcome. It's really interesting. I first heard the term triple bottom line in 1994, and
Hmm.
I've been obsessed with it ever since, which I'm sure you're
uh,
familiar with the notion, which is you run your brand or your business or your company with not only an eye toward the profit bottom line, but with an eye toward a bottom line for the planet and for people.
mhm.
And so, with our my own personal capital, I've only launched triple bottom line ideas. And for Cambio, it's the culture we build within Cambio where people can thrive and grow and develop. But it's also the coffee farming story that we told you about on the people side. And on the planet side, it's self-evident. Our mission of trying to keep 54 million a day out of landfills, and our aspiration, I hope, a decade or a decade and a half from now, there are no plastic K cups used. I mean, hopefully the big behemoths in the industry will just adopt the technology and off we'll go, which would be really fun. So those are our sort of three bottom lines. But what I was going to share is fascinating. There's a segment of humans that value being like deeply value being able to work for a cause that's bigger than profit or bigger than ourselves,
Mhm.
even though we all still want to get paid and raise our families. I'm not saying that you don't want to get paid at market rates, but there's something just so intoxicating about working for something that's bigger than just money or just bigger than ourselves. So from an employee standpoint, you get amazingly talented people. It's fantastic, phenomenal. And then what's interesting too is it attracts an amazing kind of customer who goes, "Yeah, I care. Yeah, I care about that." That the people in planet side of these businesses, and as long as you're not asking me to sacrifice taste or quality, I mean, not only yes, but heck yes. So it's funny how the universe and energy, you sort of open different pathways that end up being super powerful. Um, and then in the messy middle, the other thing I would share, there's a concept that I didn't make up, but I love, which is called the corridor of success. And even though it's messy and hard and scary, when you dare to enter the corridor of your dream and you're doing it with actual energy and passion and risk, doors will open in the corridor that you would have never expected or didn't know about. So, we would have a perfect example like um, a family office who has a fund who is purpose driven, brands oriented, and they hear about you and ring you up, and I would have never found those capital from those sources going through traditional channels. So the corridor of success is an amazing thing.
You mentioned a few books or sources of inspiration for you: the messy middle, the triple bottom line, things that stuck out to you over the years. I'm wondering if you have any sort of advice or wisdom you'd like to pass along to someone who's thinking to themselves, "I'd like to get into a business that I care about. a business that I'm passionate about that I think does good in the world. But I'm right here at the beginning. Maybe a piece of advice that stuck with you in that vein, or something else if that so
No,
speaks to you.
that's a super cool one. So this is me being boring as a strategist, but I would introduce the concept of maintenance variables and leverage variables. And very simply, in any industry you enter, car wash, restaurant, coffee, lawn chairs, hotels, whatever it is, just because you're a quote purpose driven brand and have that passion in your heart, there's aspects of whatever industry you're in. They're the maintenance variables that you have to make sure you're equal to the sort of the mean competitors in your space, or the business model is never going to work. So, thing number one is purpose driven. Though there's a lot of us who care about it, it's not a band aid for the real part of business economics that have to work. Number one. Number two, however, it's a going through the purpose driven route in whatever category you are, even if it's a tire store. Um, Again, opens up an amazing new swath of customers, and for that, I would say there's interesting new work, Ryan, in neuroscience that a more uh, um, a more visually appealing alternative and a more emotionally powerful experience triggers the same dopamine, mesolimbic dopamine pathway that addiction triggers. So humans, because of biology, psychology, and evolution, find the more visually beautiful thing and the more emotionally satisfying thing crazy attractive. It's a chemical thing, and
Hmm.
that's why purchase intent scores for brands that know how to compete with design and compete with experience and compete with purpose, as long as they're doing maintenance variables well. That's why typically their financial returns are higher, which is actually counterintuitive. But so that would be some caution and just some way to a framework to sort of think about it in.
What is the future of Cambio? You are you and your team are building this thing. You mentioned your goal of 100 million uh, in a year at some point in the near
That'll take us
future,
3 years from
3 years. So you have kind of that 3 year plan. I mean, is the goal to I want to say you implied that the goal was to take over that entire market or adopt or
Yeah.
have bigger companies adopt it.
Right.
But you also mentioned patents, and so that made me wonder: can they just come in, or are you asking Keurig to say, "Hey, you got to invent your own thing here"? Like we're gonna, what's
Yeah.
the how does that work?
So we have a very um, deep patent portfolio around all kinds of aspects of the aluminum capsule, such that for the foreseeable future, Cambio will be the only one offering it to the world.
Hmm.
So, step number one, I think, in our dream is to have the Cambio brand maybe not completely ubiquitously available in the US, but mostly. So all the major retailers. So, for example, we're in all 2,100 Kroger stores and all their banners, the
Hmm.
top 1,000 Target stores. The Amazon site is blowing up in a good way with people who are searching for recyclable K cups or coffee pods or what have you. And then in thousands of other retail doors. So that's step number one, is to have Cambio be this beautiful brand in the national phase, kind of like how Ben and Jerry's is, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Then, and then that we believe will attract the big guys and say, would we be able to avail of ourselves or license your technology, or would you help us, co-pack our coffee? And then we would think, you can tell at my age that I'm not an early stage career guy, so that's a perfect time that partnering with the big guys in the space would make just a ton of sense. Then that moves you forward to eradicating plastic K cups in the next, let's just say, decade or 15 years. It's a big project, but that would be how we kind of think about the path forward.
How long have you been doing Cambio?
Uh, Twice as long and spending twice as much money as my original plans.
Okay.
so, so we sold the first cup, call it from in 2020, basically.
Okay, so relatively, I mean, short, long runway, but was how did you at the beginning? There had to be a first uh, coffee pod that sold.
Hmm.
Do you still get that same dopamine rush when you see a sale go through now, or
I
how
actually,
it? Yeah, how has that changed? Because I feel like it's hard to maintain enthusiasm over a long, tough uphill climb.
yeah, one of, you know how your blessing is your curse. Uh, um, on the blessing side, I have just for some reason just bottomless passion. If I'm fired up about it, I'm unassuageable. I'm
Yeah,
in,
sure.
infatigable. So I'm something with a
Yeah.
bull at the end. Um, so no, but like as we're on the call, we run our website, which is only a small part of our sales, but it's fun. CambioRoasters.com on Shopify. I've set it sets up so whenever there's a sale, a cash register ring noise happens, and
Hmm.
uh, now just now 4 different times since you and I've been talking, it rings, and I get such a high out of that. um, it's also really fun. So this year we'll serve somewhere between 10 and 20 million cups of coffee.
Hmm.
And I won't know the people. I don't know them. And I get such a high from that, just imagining someone caring about our little dream and having it help them be more who they want to be. It's just such a high. And the other thing for me that I've always been attracted to is seeing things on the national stage at scale that exist that wouldn't if I wasn't here.
Sure.
I get a high out of that.
I have a strategy where early on in the show there was a fan of the show. Her name is Kim,
Yep.
and Kim was very proactive in supporting us socially, social media wise, online. And then I had an in person event. Maybe 10 people showed up, and
Uh-huh.
she drove and was one of them. And so even now, 6 years later, I think about Kim when I'm doing things or I'm questioning decisions,
Oh
and I think,
yeah.
oh, that's the person that is out there that I never would have known that is now excited about coffee or is now doing an entrepreneurial thing or so on. And so for me, I have that. And to your point, I don't have the cash register sound, but there was a ding here because I forgot to turn my phone off. We launched a new line of coffee people are sexy things
Yeah.
at
Perfect.
World of Coffee.
I will be a customer.
Well, this morning, some of the first sales from coffee from the event rolled through as we put, it's just a very simple, basic thing. And I was so excited at 7 o'clock
Where
this
can I
morning.
find them?
Coffeepeoplearesexy.com.
Good.
Thank you for
Perfect.
asking.
Good.
Uh, so the last thing here that I have to ask is there's going to be days when you're traveling for work or you're out with your family and you need a cup of coffee and one of your Cambio coffees maybe isn't available. I'm sure that's rare, but you stop into a coffee shop.
Oh
What is
yeah.
it that you're going to order?
So I love coffee in all form factors, and to me, it's however the consumer wants to do it. We're an at-home solution if you love your Keurig, but I love pour over and I love cold brew, and I just love the spectrum. So, however, my go-to order will either be either be a cappuccino, not a latte, either a cappuccino or a beautiful dark roast with half and half in sort of a lightish tan, medium tan color when I'm done, sort of mimicking a latte. Those are those would be my two go-to bombers.
Did I miss anything? Well, is there anything in this, first introductory meeting that you really wanted people to know that I forgot to ask or we just missed?
Boy, I think you did a great job covering it. No, it was a thrill, actually, an honor.
I'm gonna I'm gonna clip just that part and put that out. I think you did a great job saving that. Uh,
Awesome.
Kevin, thank you so much for an hour of your time and talking about this. I think it's a really interesting concept. I remember my first experience with a reusable K cup, and now having the option of a recyclable thing. especially for someone who, I travel a lot. It's always a challenge to try to maintain my levels of waste and just impact,
Hmm.
which is something I care about.
Very
I
challenging. Yeah.
appreciate that you're taking on the challenge, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about what you do.
Great. Super nice to meet you. Thanks a ton. Yeah, I thought you did an awesome job, actually.
Thank you, sir.